Where am I?
Good day, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Not too bad. We missed you in Big History, Cyril.
Yes, I couldn't get in. I'd signed in and I was waiting to get in, but it just didn't happen. So.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And my phone rang. I had to answer that, and it was just a couple of minutes past. So something's going wrong somewhere.
Okay. Now again, today I'm going to show you a video, and then we will have some discussion. This one is about the high-speed rail, and then I'm thinking of next week we will do a slow-speed rail. So this one first. It is about the National Day. So come on, play. Is that playing?
Looks like it's built up very high, Albert.
Stories of people, culture, and nature on a thrilling 8-day journey through China's vast high-speed rail network. Setting off from the Chinese capital to down south in Guangzhou, Shanghai on the east, as well as nearby Zhangjiakou, its partner for the Winter Olympics. Plus, a visit to the roof of the world, aboard the world's highest railway, from glitzy metropolis to vast plains and rugged mountains. Join CGTN on a fast motion journey, exploring China's beauty and diversity for an experience like no other, starting October 1st.
Right, today marks the first day of China's National Day holiday, also known as Golden Week. And this year's holiday is one day longer than usual, as Mid-Autumn Festival also falls on October the 1st. And Chinese tourists are eager to travel during the 8-day holiday, and train is, of course, one of the most popular choices of transportation. So starting from today, CGTN will take you on the thrilling 8-day journey through China's high-speed rail network. Our reporters on 4 different routes will bring you stories of people, culture, and nature.
I'm CGTN reporter Zhou Jiaxun, and I'll bring you stories from my train journey with some health workers who fought COVID-19 in central China's Wuhan. Join me on my return to the city.
From Beijing to Shanghai in just 4.5 hours.
By way of the fastest train in the world.
We'll take you to experience the heartbeat of China's most cosmopolitan city.
And experience the sights and sounds of some of the most amazing sights along the way.
I'm Sim Sim Wiscott, and I will be traveling from Qinghai to Tibet on the highest railway in the world, bringing you spectacular landscapes and stories of amazing engineering along the way.
I'm now on a smart high-speed train on Jinjiang Railway. This is where history intertwines with the future.
All right, before we start our train journey, here's some news from China. Thursday marks 71 years since the founding of the People's Republic of China, and the State Council on Wednesday held a National Day reception in Beijing. President Xi Jinping and other high-level officials attended, as well as nearly 500 guests from home and abroad. Premier Li Keqiang addressed the event. He said, facing the COVID-19 outbreak and the global economic recession, China has achieved major strategic results. And Li underscored consistent reforms and opening up. He also called for efforts to fully and faithfully implement one country, two systems. And on Taiwan, Li urged the efforts to uphold the One China principle and the 1992 consensus to firmly oppose and deter any Taiwan separatist activities and external interference. Now, Chinese people have an 8-day holiday break this year, and the traditional Mid-Autumn Festival falls on National Day. Parks and tourist spots welcome visitors with pandemic preventative measures in place. And in Shanghai's Forest Park, reservations are required, so are health codes and temperature checks. Visitor flow is limited to 75% of capacity. And in East China's Nanjing, museums plan to extend hours into the evening, and this is to reduce visitor numbers during daytime. The city also expands pedestrian streets and opens more outdoor facilities. And in central China's Wuhan, one of its famous pedestrian streets is also open to the public. Besides the Spring Festival, the Golden Week holiday is a peak travel period across China. And this year, from September the 28th to October the 8th, railway authorities expect an average of over 9 million passenger trips per day, totaling to at least 108 million trips for the said period. A National Day rush on October the 1st will see about 13 million trips, a record high since the coronavirus outbreak. An addition of 1,200 trains will be put into service, bringing the total number of trains to 9,500 per day to meet the travel rush. And China has been committed to expanding its transport network during its current 5-year plan. Its high-speed rail system is expected to reach 38,000 kilometers by the end of this year, double its length in 2015. And over the past 5 years, the government's average annual investment on railway infrastructure per year was 800 billion yuan. The high-speed rail network covers most of the country and helps people reach large cities in a much quicker time. And the network not only enhances transportation capacity across the country, but also provides support for economic development. And China's high-speed railway network is the biggest in the world, covering over 35,000 kilometers. China has as much high-speed rail track as the rest of the world combined. But it does not stop there. Wang Qiao tells us about the plans for further expansion.
Despite its already large capacity, Chinese authorities continue to look for ways to expand the country's high-speed rail network. A 2016 national plan extended it from the original 4+4 structure into an 8+8. That essentially means by 2030, there should be 8 horizontal and 8 vertical corridors. The longest is the new Eurasia Continental Bridge Passageway, connecting Lianyungang in Jiangsu province to Urumqi in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. It passes through the cities of Xuzhou, Xi'an, Lanzhou, and Xining, connecting the country's east all the way to the northwest. Another example, the Beijing to Hong Kong corridor connects cities in a north to south direction. There's also a proposal for a branch leading from Hefei and ending in Taipei via a tunnel under the Taiwan Strait. The new network will bring drastic cuts in intercity travel times across the country. By 2035, the entire rail network is expected to reach 200,000 kilometers, and the high-speed network should double to 70,000 kilometers. This means the network will then link almost all large and medium-sized cities. From special materials for train tracks to intelligent operating systems, technology has a crucial role to play in China's 8+8 high-speed rail network, which, once completed, will serve as a vital part of China's socio-economic development.
China's high-speed rail network has embarked on a path of independent innovation. It's caught up with and surpassed the world's most advanced players in many technical aspects. And here are some of the factors that enabled this rapid growth.
The launch of the Fuxing, the first Chinese-developed high-speed train, marked a significant milestone. Its core technologies and the number of patents it's generated show China's path to independent innovation. Here we have the car body, a towed vehicle designed to move along a railway track. The major technologies here involve how to make it lighter, using new materials and new structures. China's number of patent applications for the car body has mushroomed since 2006 and has led to a rapid growth in global applications. Moving along, we have the bogie. It's a frame onto which the wheels of the railway vehicle are fixed. It's used to facilitate movement on curved tracks. The main research also focuses on methods of making it safer and lighter. The number of bogie-related patent applications by China made up more than half the world's total in 2010. And now we come to the Train Control and Management System, or TCMS. It's often referred to as the train's brain. That's because of its key role in controlling the train's traction, braking, bogies, doors, and air conditioning. The trend in patent applications on TCMS since 2008 has also been dominated by China. From the overall number of related patent applications, we can see the trend of technology concentration, and it shows that China has caught up quickly by importing as well as developing its own high-speed rail technology starting from 2004.
And now we have Claire Pearson joining us online. She's the president of the China-Britain Belt and Road Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to The World Today, Claire. You worked in China for a while. Have you ever traveled by railway, high-speed trains here? How was the experience?
Yeah, thank you for having me here today on your National Day. I travel by train regularly, like a typical business person who works in China. It has completely transformed the way I operate. I work as a lawyer, and my job is to go and meet clients. And the thing about the train, the way that it's really changed it, when I arrive at a client meeting, I don't want the wear and tear of travel behind me. I want to have the relaxation and time to repair my mind. It's not about how many meetings you have in China. It's about how many meetings of mind you can cultivate. So you have to be relaxed when you arrive, and that's why I use the train. I'm based in Beijing. I can cycle for 30 minutes to Beijing South Railway, and it just takes me 4 hours to get to Shanghai. But the difference is, before I arrive for that meeting in Shanghai, I can be working solidly for 4 hours on the train. I can be taking phone calls, or I can be pre-meeting the client on the train. The train has actually become one of the key meeting rooms in China, because we call it meals and deals on wheels, because the trains are very comfortable and they're conducive to working quietly with either on your laptop, on your phone, or with your client in a sort of meeting environment. So when you arrive in Shanghai, you're already on top of your game and ready to win your deal. The other area where I use the train a lot, and my brother's been able to build the business because he was working in Shanghai and could open a tech company in Hangzhou, because he could attract people from Shanghai to work in Hangzhou because of the high-speed rail connection only taking a couple of hours. So for me, it's about two things. It's about economic stimulus and social inclusion. I heard 1.1 billion trips were taken in 2015. And the one thing I really like about the train is its consistency and reliability, because this allows me to say to a client exactly what minute I will arrive in Shanghai, Hangzhou, Wuhan. It will allow me to say exactly when I'll be at the desk in Nanjing, because the trains leave when they say they're going to leave, they arrive when they say they're going to arrive, and you don't have that wear and tear of flight and road travel. So your brain is in a good condition to operate effectively in the meeting.
Right, trains apparently have become a better choice for a lot of people, and just like you, they are using the trains as meeting rooms as well, or as a commune transportation. But let's see from a larger picture here. What do you think the general construction and planning of China's express trains?
To be frank, it's phenomenal. I've been traveling across China for 20 years, consistently by train. And the biggest change between 2000 to 2010, it was sort of hard work, but 2010 to 2020, it has been completely different, because China has the engineering capacity to build a railway that is smooth, fast, and cost effective that no other country has. And so, China, it has been able to build on the roof of the world. I heard that joining up, you can get to Lhasa now, which requires sort of permafrost engineered technology that other countries just don't have. Similarly, I was born in Zambia, and they built the Tanzan Railway there. So China's been building good railways for a long time. It's drawing on 50 years technology development. And I think the most important thing is that China has just built across a continent. It's just upgraded its own network across the whole of China. So it's developed the technology on the job. There's nothing like learning from doing. And China has performed engineering feats that I think will enable it to take this railway technology around the world. I was just reading that it's possible they could build across the Bering Strait. So maybe we can get from London to New York by train thanks to Chinese engineers. I would like that. It's low carbon, it's socially inclusive, and it's a good price. And for women traveling on their own, it's completely safe. So there's a lot to be said for the train in the climate change migratory era.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Claire Pearson, the president of China Britain Belt and Road Chamber of Commerce. Now, today we, like we mentioned just now, begin an 8-day special series, China Express. We tour the country on bullet trains. Take the world's longest high-speed rail from Beijing to Guangzhou in the south. From Beijing to the financial hub Shanghai, we ride on China's busiest fast train. And from Beijing to its co-host of the 2022 Winter Olympics, Zhang Jiakou, we take the world's fastest autonomous bullet train. In the west, the Heavenly Road runs from Xining in Qinghai province to Lhasa in Tibet. And today we travel from Beijing to Guangzhou, stretching nearly 2,300 kilometers. The Beijing-Guangzhou line is the world's longest high-speed railway with an average speed of over 300 kilometers per hour. And the line has drastically reduced travel time between the two cities to just 8 hours. And along the way, we'll visit the city of Wuhan. It's a major transport hub in central China. It was also the epicenter of China's coronavirus outbreak earlier this year. We'll find out what life has been like since then. And now let's look at Beijing-Guangzhou high-speed railway, which connects 1/3 of China's population. Since it opened in December 2012, millions of passengers have found that their hometowns are not so far away after all.
If you want to witness the Four Seasons changes one day, hop on the Beijing-Guangzhou high-speed railway. It's China's longest north-south train route with a total length of nearly 2,300 kilometers. It also holds the record for operating the longest mileage in the world. It runs through 6 provinces, 28 cities, and 7 regions. When your journey takes off from Beijing, the train traverses the vast North China Plain, then crosses China's 2 major rivers, the Yellow River and the mighty Yangtze. In spring, the temperature varies from warm temperature to subtropical. The landscape transforms from deciduous, broadleaf forests to evergreen ones, from plains to low hills. If you take the train in winter, you will catch snow in the morning and green trees by evening. In the 1970s, Beijing to Guangzhou took nearly 38 hours on the express train, which traveled at 60 kilometers per hour. That's thankfully been cut short thanks to the high-speed rail's top speed of 350 kilometers per hour, and that can rival the speed of a brand new Ferrari. Until the high-speed rail was inaugurated, many migrant workers from across China only returned home once or twice a year. And now, they can return home more frequently as they better connected with their family members.
And in Wuhan, an important stop on the Beijing-Guangzhou railway was hit hard earlier this year when COVID-19 first emerged there. And one doctor in the eastern city of Nanjing is taking the high-speed train to revisit the city where he once risked his life fighting the virus. And this time he says he wants to see how Wuhan is recovering. Our reporter Zhou Jiaxin is with him.
I'm one of nearly 100 million train travelers during the National Day holiday starting from October 1st. And I'm setting up for Nanjing South Railway Station in the capital city of East China's Jiangsu province. On the very first day of CGTN's 8-long China Express series, it's my privilege to join some local health workers on a train journey to central China's Wuhan, once the city hardest hit by the coronavirus, where they fought COVID-19 for more than 2 months. And it's a great opportunity for us to revisit these frontliner stories and find out how they're feeling right now. And I'm pleased to be joined by Dr. Jia Ling, who was among more than 42,000 medical personnel from across the country deployed to Wuhan soon after the outbreak. So, Mr. Jia, back in January, you left for Wuhan from this station, and what's the difference between then and now?
在1月份的时候，
So back in January,
In January, the time was tight, and the future situation in Wuhan was unknown. My mood at the time was quite uneasy. I didn't know what would happen in the future, and I didn't know if I could come back again. Now the epidemic situation in China is under control. I feel very thrilled, relaxed, and happy to have such an opportunity to go back to Wuhan and visit the doctors whom I worked with back then, especially during the National Day holiday and the Mid-Autumn Festival.
So for this trip, actually, what the most you look forward to on this trip?
那么这一次呢，回去呢最想做的事情呢是想看一看。
The thing I want to do the most is visit the doctors with whom I fought COVID-19, as well as tour around the city and eat local cuisine. When we fought the virus back then, we didn't see each other's faces because we all wore masks. So I want to have a look at their faces this time. I also want to visit the Yellow Crane Tower, the Yangtze River Bridge, and some light shows at night. I want to have a good tour of the city, have some local cuisine, and feel the life there after the city gets back to normal.
So we will get there soon because the trip will take less than 3 hours to Wuhan. And I know that some medical families also actually with the medical staff on this trip. As you mentioned, this is this year's Mid-Autumn Day, also actually the Chinese traditional celebration for family reunion also falls on the same day as National Day, so that we will be able to catch up with some of them while we are on the train.
And earlier, Dr. Jialing shared with us his experience in fighting COVID-19 in Wuhan.
我是1月25号，也就是在大年。
After Wuhan was locked down on January 23rd, our hospital set up an emergency team to isolate those with fever. I was the first to sign up. On that day, the hospital also asked me if I was willing to join the Jiangsu medical team supporting Wuhan. I signed up immediately. On the 25th, we set off for Wuhan. To be honest, the unknown origin and strong contagiousness of this disease made me worry. But on the other hand, as a professional medical staff, we defeated SARS before. I believe that our country could also overcome this disease this time. The first batch of 147 medical team members from Jiangsu province to support Wuhan were confirmed on January 23rd. After 2 days of preparation, we set off for Wuhan on the 25th. Upon arrival, we came to the First People's Hospital of Jiangsha district. Even with the psychological preparation, the situation is still much more severe than we thought. Medical staff are exhausted, materials are extremely scarce, and the number of patients seriously exceeds the capacity of the hospital. However, with the support of national medical staff and the continuous assistance of national government, especially with the establishment of square cabin hospitals, the situation has greatly improved by early February. To be honest, we hope to reunite with our family, but we must ensure the situation in Wuhan is under control. Then it is the final victory. I really hope that we can return to Wuhan again to meet colleagues who were working side by side at the time. I hope next time I can enjoy the food and beauty of Wuhan.
Well, when disaster strikes, help comes from all quarters. After the coronavirus outbreak, the entire country acted promptly. Support was mustered to assist Hubei and particularly Wuhan to combat the disease.
The Lunar New Year was approaching. It was business as usual at train stations in Wuhan, as authorities dealt with a large amount of traveling associated with that time of the year. A silent killer had been spreading through the city. Heavily disguised as a bad cold with an unpredictable incubation period, the novel coronavirus hit hard and fast. On January 23rd, Wuhan was locked down, as authorities looked to contain the spread as best they could. Work began immediately to treat thousands who were reporting symptoms and to learn more about this killer virus. Unable to cope with strong demand, Wuhan sought help, and a national rescue operation was put in place. 2 massive temporary hospitals were built from scratch in a matter of days. Over a dozen public venues were turned into makeshift medical shelters. Qualified medics were also in short supply in Wuhan. However, tens of thousands answered the call over the following weeks, coming to the embattled city from all corners of the country. Medical supplies and personal protective equipment were delivered in vast quantities. And in this rescue, China didn't stand alone. Over 200 countries, regions, and organizations lent their support to the effort. A third of them donated medical supplies, such as masks and protective suits, as well as food among other necessities. In February, to learn more about the virus, the WHO sent a team on a joint investigation to China. During their 2-week stay, Wuhan turned a corner and started on the road to recovery. The head of the WHO's team explained what brought about the swift turnaround.
After going through a number of calculations, our assessment is that this approach, what we call an all-of-government, all-of-society approach with very old-fashioned tools in some ways, has probably definitely averted and probably prevented at least, well, tens of thousands, but probably hundreds of thousands of cases of COVID-19 here in China, which is an extraordinary achievement and so important.
He also thanked Wuhan for its massive contributions and sacrifices in those early days.
And I just thought it's so important that we recognize that. And to the people of Wuhan, it is recognized. The world's in your debt. And when this disease finishes, hopefully we'll have a chance to thank the people of Wuhan for the role that they've played in it. Because many of us, many other people here have suffered, but the people of that city have gone through an extraordinary period and they're still going through it. And there's so many stories like that.
The spring brought more than just milder weather to Wuhan. After 76 days in lockdown, the city was restarted in early April. The story of Wuhan in 2020 is indeed one of inspiration and selfless heroes, and social media platforms have acknowledged this. The sacrifices of a few saved the lives of many, they said, and show that when a collective will is present, then anything is possible.
While the joint efforts helped COVID-19 patients in Wuhan, a 72-year-old man who recovered from the disease has traveled 1,800 kilometers to Shenyang in northeast China's Liaoning province to express his gratitude to the medical workers who saved his life. Let's take a look at his story.
是都不认得，你穿衣服戴口罩，我不认识是哪个。给我姐几个洗衣服，买牛奶壶，我就要回来看一下，他们回来看一下，是。
最开始设定说是明年武汉在樱花再开放的时候，同样的月份4月份我要再去看它。但是朱大爷说，现在就是已经很急迫的等待来见我们。
就大爷在你给他做操作的时候，就包括剪指甲这些，他就是就像刚才看见的一样，就是谢谢啊，谢谢啊，谢谢啊。其实也不是想听谢谢，就是觉得他很理解你，就是这种感觉就。就平常就一定打电话的时候就会问你啊，就是啊你最近怎么样啊？然后你有没有那什么呀？就是挺感动，大爷就真的像家里的那种长辈啊，去关心你。
他问我好不好啊？身体恢复的怎么样啊？要我吃油啊？经常把个血糖要查一下啊，看一下血糖多少啊？如果要吃，经常还是来验个检查的，晓不晓得？就这样经常关心，经常关心。
Well, railway networks in central China's Hubei province are also gearing up for the holiday travel rush. Several batches of extra trains have been put in place since Monday in the provincial capital, Wuhan. Authorities say over 1,000 additional trains will operate for the holiday season, and that's just the first batch. Most of them will service the Wuhan Railway hub, while 65 more high-speed trains will be allocated for inter-provincial travel. Wuhan railway stations are expected to see nearly 6 million passenger trips throughout the holiday period. The average passenger count is anticipated to be 527,000 per day. This comes as the pandemic eases throughout the Chinese mainland.
Okay, I think I will stop here so that we have some
Wuhan's
time
landmark Yellow Crane Tower
discussion.
receives visitors from all over.
So I'm stopping it here so that we can discuss. Otherwise, it will just go on and on. It is about halfway through. And what the video has shown is that China has recovered from the coronavirus, and the people are moving again. And the National Day is actually, I call it the continuation of the spring human migration. The human migration stopped abruptly in January due to the virus. Now the people are picking up and doing it continuously. So, any comment?
I think it's amazing that they can put on 1,000 extra train trips a day. You know, it's hard to get that in your mind and realise it. I mean, we don't need it here, but if we thought of something multiplying the factor of our equivalent here for population and tracks and that, we wouldn't be able to do it.
But the other thing I find it interesting is that in the next 10 years, 15 years, they are going to double the current amount of high-speed rail again. So there is a tremendous amount of rails to build in the next 15 years. So,
yeah.
Of course,
some of that is built up on piers and then it's going into a mountain. So all that is time intensive, machinery intensive.
The way they do it is actually most of the rails are now on bridges to minimize the interruption to the land below.
Yeah.
It's a very clever method. I think that model can be replicated across the world. Standardize the bridge so that the distance between the pillars are fixed, and therefore they can use a mechanized mechanism to install the girders, etc., and making it much cheaper.
And safer, because you've got nothing that's going to get on the rails.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, it was out in the open country and it looked like it was built up in a pyramid shape and then a flat bit on top for the train. So I don't know whether there was possible flooding in that area at times, but they were avoiding that.
Well, I think later on I might do a special presentation just on that route to the Lhasa, because that is a very difficult trip to make, because they go through the permafrost and the semi-permafrost. The permafrost is okay because it's always frozen, but those semi-frozen land is a big challenge. And also is another thing is the altitude, because it is almost 4,000 meters high, so the oxygen level is much lower. And the construction there, they actually had set up medical camps along the rails in order to treat the high altitude sickness of the workers. And this time they done it very well. There's 0 casualty, so that's a very big achievement.
That video, as a long-term rail enthusiast, I found it frustrating
as with many of the videos that you see on television, it calls itself a rail video, and it's not. Now, the main thing that they were talking about there was people travelling and about COVID-19. We really didn't see that much rail.
I think.
So, look, that's fine as long as you recognise that and put it into context.
Yeah. Well, I tried to organize a China trip years ago and didn't success. Maybe we can try again, but this time we'll limit to high-speed rail travel.
What you're talking about for U3A?
Yeah, for people like us who has spare times and like to travel in China, then we go together and then book the hotels together, and then we can go out, eat together, and then enjoy ourselves together. Why not? I tried that a couple of years ago, but didn't work. But this time, I think we'll limit to high-speed rail.
Yeah.
And
I can, to be honest, I can understand why it wouldn't work. It's a long time. It's a long way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But look, if I can compare what's happening in China with Australia, now we've been talking in Australia about the possibility of introducing high-speed rail for nearly 30 years. Sorry, over 30 years, nearly 40 years. But we've got to recognise that there are dramatic improvements that have been made to standard rail in parts of Australia. Now, particularly in Victoria, ongoing program of improvements to the rail system, both the suburban system in Melbourne and the V-Line system in country areas. And as I say, this is ongoing. You've got other places such as Tasmania and South Australia, where the rail system is being emaciated dramatically. Tasmania has had no regular train services, regular passenger train services, apart from tourist trains, which don't count, but has had none since the late 1970s. In South Australia, the only non-tourist rail services there is in the suburban system. So compare that with Victoria, which has an ever-increasing number of trains to places like Shepparton, Warrnambool, etc., where you have a half-hour service to places like Geelong, 74 k's, and virtually an hour service to Ballarat and Bendigo. So Victoria is leading the way. You've also got similar things happening in central New South Wales and in southern Queensland.
Yeah, the train in China has now moved to autonomous. That means there's no more drivers.
Yeah.
It is all controlled by the control centers instead of controlled by the driver at the beginning. Yeah. So things are moving, but if we treat train service as a business, it doesn't make business sense. But if you
Oh, look,
train,
you're absolutely correct. I couldn't agree more.
yeah, but
But
you
what you're saying
treat it
about
as a
driverless trains,
social service, then it makes sense because socially it has a lot more benefits than the fare that people pay to travel.
of course.
Because
Well, yeah, absolutely. But what you were saying about driverless trains, the only place that I have personally travelled on driverless trains was in Vancouver. But there are driverless trains in Australia, but only freight trains in northern Western Australia for
Okay.
the mining industry.
Well, the train service in China actually can be divided into, I think, at least 4 categories. One is the China Europe train service, that is international. Another one is the heavy haul train service, moving coal from, say, the west to the east for burning. So that is heavy train. And of course, it's the high speed rail, which is so obvious. And the other one is normal speed rail, which is
Commuter rail.
also very, very important.
When you're talking about heavy trains, some of the longest trains are in Australia. You've got trains in parts of Western Australia, parts of South Australia, which are over 2 kilometres long, one train. And across the Nullarbor, you have double-deck stacking of
passenger
sorry?
trains, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
there's a very long train. I don't know where that train is. Some people have counted it to be, I think, 260 something carriages. A very, very long train.
In China,
I don't know where. People have sent a video.
our GAN train is very long. I've looked at that up in the Northern Territory, and you're in the middle and you look either way, you can't see the end carriages.
But
some of those trains in Canada taken out of cars.
yeah, there are very large trains in Canada, and I have seen them in Canada. But as I said, Australia does have the longest trains. But Cyril, you can't compare the size of a little passenger train like the GAN with the large.
The GAN is very expensive.
Yeah, but that's because it's evolved into a tourist train.
Yeah.
It's not a commuter service anymore, unfortunately. But I mean, I have done many trips on the GAN and on the Indian Pacific and on other trains which evolved into tourist trains like the Sunlander and the Inlander in Queensland. But it's freight which keeps the railways going, whether you're talking about Australia, whether you're talking about Canada, whether you're talking about China. It's freight which keeps the railways going.
Well, but for China at the moment, for example, the high-speed rail, they run on a different track with the slow-speed normal trains, and the heavy haul is also running on a different track. So, in a way, the passenger high-speed rail will have to pay for itself. But being a social service, the government can look at much longer terms rather than looking at return of investment in 10 or 20 years. They can look at the return on investment in 50 years, 100 years plan rather than a short-term plan like 10 years, 5 years. Then you are looking at that time frame. It doesn't.
Albert.
Yep.
You're absolutely correct. But in Australia, the problem is that governments seem to see rail in monetary terms only, whereas it's the other benefits.
Yeah, the social benefits is ignored.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And in that particular video, I just show you the train is so much lower in carbon. So it's a much more environmentally friendly ways to travel.
Albert, you said the high speed in China in the west is up at a very high altitude. I think you said 12,000 meters. Was that correct?
Is that 4,000 meters? I don't think it's 12,000. 12,000 a bit too high.
4,000.
I think it's 4,000. I can't remember exactly how high it is, but it is very high. Put it that way.
And doing the extra work to go from a driver train to a driverless, they really wouldn't be gaining much, would they? Because there's plenty of people there to be employed. They want to keep everyone employed. That's come out before.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing what they would really gain.
Well, because China has a problem of population getting old. So China moving into a more robot-based, higher. I think it's more about efficiency rather than a job. Because China doesn't have a really a big job problem if it continues to grow like before. Obviously, with this COVID-19, the world is going into recession, and the only country that will record a positive economic growth probably will be China this year. Next year is also worrisome. I don't know whether, for example, we can recover from COVID next year. We will recover only after a cheap available vaccines.
Yes, absolutely.
Without vaccines, I don't think the world will recover. So that will be depending on which vaccine we are looking at. Most of them earliest will be early next year.
Yeah, that's been
look, the difference between driverless trains and trains on train operated is the number of people employed. And what you said, Albert, about China is quite interesting. But look, one person can control up to half a dozen driverless trains.
Yeah. But you will still need services on the train for the passengers.
Oh, but that's if you're talking passenger trains.
Yeah.
But as I said, the railways, look...
the flight change doesn't really need... Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But they still...
You can have a 2 kilometre long coal train in northern Western Australia.
Yeah.
And there is no human to be seen.
Yeah, they don't need that. The only humans necessary is to the engineers checking that the train is properly in conditions, sufficient good condition, and then the train can just let go and then let the controller take over.
And of course, for you need humans to load and unload.
Oh no! At the moment, most of these freight change will be the Chinese container ports is now also autonomous.
To some extent.
Well, they have control people in the control rooms. That's true, but other than that, for example, the trucks which carry the containers to the storage area, these are autonomous. So the truck will go under the crane, and then the crane will pick up the container, and again that is also autonomous, and then put it on the truck. The truck knows where it goes, and then The amount of programming and amount of artificial intelligence behind it is just staggering.
Yeah. Back northwest Australia 2 years ago, I stayed down south with a fly-in, fly-out people, and he was a train driver. It was automatic, but they needed someone there, and every 90 seconds he had to push this button to show he was awake.
Yes.
And I think
That's
it was
right.
partly like a check on the whole thing being all right. But
Yeah.
what he did have to do that was manual was count any cattle that got hit and died. So they refunded the farmer about $400. And if cattle prices were poor, apparently the station owners would drive their cattle towards the railway line and at least got 400. That was a comment he made. How true that is or how widespread, I don't know. There you go.
It's a good story, but I wonder whether it's true. But yeah. Good on you. Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish off, and then we'll see you next year. Next week.
Next week. All right.
Okay.
Will do.
Okay.
I
Bye
went
bye.
on the Shanghai train from the airport in the city. You didn't know you were moving at the fast pace. It was just so
Wow,
smooth.
we
and gentle.
definitely have to try that train if we go to China together. Deliberately try the map navigator train. So maybe we'll start organizing next year, and then we'll try to see whether we will be able to travel on 2020, 22.
Thank you, Albert.
Yeah,
Albert.
thank you. Nobody's going to go.
Thank
Thank
you. A
you.
lot of driverless trains.
Stay up, buddy.
Albert,
Take your bag, Valerie.
Albert.
Yeah.
Getting back to what you were saying about in big history about languages, I'm going to email you a copy of my PowerPoint presentation on Jewish languages. We'll have to cut it down dramatically, but I want your help on that. You will know what to cut out.
Okay.
And what not to.
We will talk about that when I
get that
when
to
I
you.
read through your PowerPoint first.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good on you.
Yeah, bye,
Okay,
everyone.
bye.
Until next week. Bye.
Bye.